What's up, family? I'm up. I'm back. I'm back with some more breaking news. This is my grandma weekend, so I'm gonna have to make this quick. But I'm back with some more breaking news, and this just goes to show that this train that they're on of trying to destroy the legacies of these black men even after they're dead. This is just another example of it. And Lord have mercy. When you find out who they have attacked now, yes, you saw the thumbnail. When you find out who they are coming after now, after all of these years. Okay? So let's just get right into this. I got this story from WIVB4.com. And it says Buffalo. Deceased musician Rick James accused of rape in CVA case. And the first thing I want to say is I want you to notice the language. I want you to notice the language that white mainstream media uses when it talks about these black men versus white men. When they talk about white men, they talk about sexual assault. They talk about misconduct. They talk about non-consensual sex or non-consensual sexual relations or whatever. But when they talk about black men, they come right on out with the word rape. Very, very seldom are you going to see white mainstream media using the word rape in context with these big men in Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? Or these rich white males or whatever. Now they may do it for white males down the line who are not a part of the elite or who are not a part of the establishment or whatever. Every once in a while you might see them say rape when you're dealing with them, some of them, or you might even see them say rape when they're talking about, they've raped this woman or that one, but most of the time it's sexual allegations. Most of the time it's sexual misconduct. Most of the time it's sexual assault. Most of the time it's non-consensual sexual relations or something like that. Very, very seldom will you see white mainstream media use the word rape in relation to these white men. But it's always rape when it comes to black men. So, so again, deceased musician Rick James is accused of rape in a CVA case. Now, Rick James has been dead since August 2004. So, Rick James has almost been dead for 16 years. Okay? Almost 16 years that this man has been dead. All right. Let's get into this. This is by Daniel Televoc, and it was posted February 14, 2020. The late Rick James, a famous singer and songwriter born in Buffalo, is accused of raping a 15-year-old girl in 1979. 41 years ago. Yes, 41 years ago. So this woman would now be 55, 56 years old. Because 1979 was 40 years ago, 41 years ago. This is 2020. So that's 41 years ago that this alleged rape took place with this 15-year-old girl, okay? The accuser, who is anonymous in the Child Victims Act lawsuit, alleges that James threatened to cut her and raped her in an upstairs bedroom in a group home, in the upstairs bedroom of a group home. Her affidavit states that in the spring of 1979, almost 41 years ago, when she was 15 years old, James came to the group home on Richmond Avenue to meet one of her house parents. She said James was brought through the dining room where a group of young girls were all excited to meet him. I did not know who Rick James was and shrugged and said, "I don't know him," the accuser wrote in her affidavit. Almost immediately, Rick James was very suggestive and inappropriate towards me. He made me feel very uncomfortable. Okay, now she's claiming that, he came there to see one of her house parents, one of the people that was running this group home, right? And she said almost immediately he became very suggestive and inappropriate towards her. Okay, well, where were the house parents? If he was there to meet them, then that means that the house parents were there. She just said that there was a group of young females there. So why was he making you feel uncomfortable? And where was the house parent? So you're saying that he was being suggestive and inappropriate towards you in front of all of these people, in front of the other girls and in front of the house parent, house parents, or whatever. Okay? The accuser said she went upstairs to her room where she changed into her nightgown and laid on her bed to read. So you claim, now you're 15 years old. So you claim that this man, this adult man who's making you feel so so uncomfortable, and he's already being, according to you, he's already being suggestive and inappropriate towards you. But then you're gonna leave and making you feel uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. But you're gonna leave the safety of everybody else in the living room or the dining room or the common room or where everybody was. You're going to leave the safety and the security of being around all of these people, and you're going to go upstairs in your room alone. You're going to change into your nightgown, and then you're going to lay on your bed to read. Come on now. She alleges that James came into her bedroom and laid on top of her. Okay, first of all, how does this man know where your bedroom is? How does he know? How does he know how to find your bedroom just like that? Just like that. How does he know how to find your bedroom? Just like that now. You claim you didn't know him. We just read. She said, I did not know who Rick James was, and I shrugged and said, I don't know him. Okay, so if you don't know him, then that means that it's not like you saw him around this group home all the time, because you would have recognized him. You would have known who he was. Okay, so it's obvious that he didn't spend a whole lot of time there, because if he did, then you would have known who he was, right? So if he didn't spend a whole lot of time there, if he was not a frequent visitor at this group home, then how in the hell did he know where your bedroom was at? For him to just come in your bedroom and lay on top of you. And again, where were your house parents? Again, the people the adults that run the group home, where were they? Because you said he came there to meet one of the house parents. So where were these people at? So Rick James was just allowed to roam around this group home where all these young females were, after already being suggestive and inappropriate with you. But you leave the safety of numbers, because you the one said he made you feel very uncomfortable. So you leave the safety of numbers, go in your room alone, change into a nightgown, so you take off your clothes, and then you lay across your bed. And he just all of a sudden comes in your room. Again, how does he know where your room was? Okay. He grabbed my hair and pushed my head into the pillow, the accuser wrote in her affidavit. I tried to fight him off, but he told me to shut up and quit moving, or I'll cut you. He violently ripped off my underwear and proceeded to violent rape me and ejaculate inside of me. Then he threatened me that if I told anyone, he would know where to find me. The accuser said that she continues to suffer from physical, psychological, and emotional pain, and had abused alcohol briefly as a teenager and used drugs as a result of the incident. She is suing the singer's estate, the James Ambrose Johnson Jr. 1999 Trust, for $50 million. Where's the statute of limitations for something that happened 40 years ago? 40 years ago against somebody that's now dead, that's been dead for 16 of those 40 years. James is best known for his song Super Freak, which is one of his most successful albums, which is on one of his most successful albums, Street Songs. Well, he's not best known for Super Freak, but okay. The singer's drug addiction and legal issues slowed his career. He served 2 years in prison back in 1993. In 1998, he suffered a stroke that announced his retirement. James died on August 6, 2004 in his Los Angeles home and is buried in Buffalo at Forest Lawn Cemetery. First of all, why is this news? Why is anybody even reporting on this? Why is this news? So we got a woman coming forward after 41 years, almost 41 years, claiming that Rick James raped her in 1994. And I've already broken apart the whole story. The whole story does not make any sense. You claim you didn't know who this man was. You claim he came to the group home to visit one of the house parents. Okay, you claim that you didn't know who he was and you just strudged because you didn't know who he was. But you claim almost immediately he picked you out of all of these young females to be inappropriate and suggestive with you, which made you very uncomfortable. But with being that uncomfortable, you still left the safety and the security of everybody else, goes upstairs in your room by yourself, change clothes and put on a nightgown, and you lay across the bed to read. And then this man who you claim you don't know. So since you don't know him, it's obvious that he's not spending a whole lot of time around the group home, because otherwise you would have recognized him and at least known his face, or at least known, his name or whatever. So it's obvious he hasn't spent a whole lot of time there, but he just magically finds your bedroom. He just magically knows where your bedroom is so that he can come in and violently rape you. So we're supposed to believe that because Rick James violently raped you, that's the reason why you abused alcohol and drugs as a teenager. Okay, first of all, why were you in a group home? What was going on with with your home life, and what was going on with your life, and what was going on with you and your parents and your situation for you at the age of 15 to be in a group home? These are the questions that need to be asked. You see what I'm saying? This Me Too bullshit tells us that we're just supposed to believe the women. We're just supposed to believe women when they come out and say that they've been raped or they've been sexually assaulted or whatever the case may be. We're not supposed to question it. We're not supposed to ask legitimate questions. The story doesn't have to make sense. The pieces don't have to fall together. We're just supposed to believe it. Well, I just don't believe this bullshit because it sounds like a bunch of bullshit. But again, this is it. Now it's not so much. Now not only are they slandering living black men, but now they're going after dead black men. And this man has been dead for 16 years. 16 years Rick James has been dead. This is something that supposedly happened in 1979. So it took you 40 years to get your shit together and decide that you were going to sue this man's estate. And he was living for 24 years and you didn't say a word. He's been dead for 16 years and you haven't said a word. Now, all of a sudden, in this era of Me Too, when all the rest of these black men are being drug up and smear campaigns have gone out against Michael Jackson. We just seen Kobe. We just seen Gayle King try to smear Kobe Bryant's legacy. Yeah, we just saw Gayle try to slander and try to smear Kobe Bryant's legacy. So now I guess the next victim is Rick James. Rick James. For something that supposedly happened way back in 1979. So, I mean, this is 40 years, people. We're talking about, she said this happened in the spring of 1979. Okay, well, we're coming up on the spring of 2020. So that would make it 41 years. 41 years. So it took her 50-some years to get it together enough to decide that she was going to sue this man's estate. $50 million. $50 million. So what's happening is, because This is what white mainstream media is pushing, because this is what white supremacy is pushing, because this is part of the agenda to smear these black men's legacies. You understand what I'm saying? To destroy their legacies while they're living, to destroy their legacies once they're dead, to wait until after they're dead and they can't defend themselves or whatever, to start throwing all of these accusations and all of this kind of stuff around. This opens up the door for all of these different people to come out and start with all of these different frivolous lawsuits and all of this kind of stuff after years and years and years. Just like with Bill Cosby. All of those women that came forward, they were coming forward telling stories that had happened 30, 40 years ago. They weren't coming forward with any new stories. They were coming forward with stuff that supposedly had happened 30, 40 years ago. Okay, well, now we see Rick James with something that supposedly happened 41 years ago. And because of the Me Too movement, we're just supposed to believe this shit. We're just supposed to take this at face value, and we're not supposed to question it. We're not supposed to question the timing. We're not supposed to question why white women aren't coming forward. You understand what I'm saying? And suing all of these, the estates of all of these rich white men that are dying. Like, why, we're not hearing stories of white women coming forward to sue the estate of Kirk Douglas, or the estate of Elvis Presley, or the estate of any of these white multi-billionaires and movie stars and all of this, and musicians and everything that have died. But now all of a sudden, all of these women are coming forward talking about what these black men did to them, these dead black men. We got these folks, first we had Safe Chuck and Robinson coming forward with their lies, and all of that whole thing was debunked. Then we got Gayle King, of course, trying to slander and smear Kobe. Now Rick James. And Rick James his issues with drug abuse, his legal issues, all of that was very public. It was very public, especially during the time when him and Lisa Marie was together and they were singing together and all of that, and all the drug stuff was going on and all of that. Rick James, and the fact that the criminal justice system, the legal system, would even entertain this mess, so that after all of these years, she could even attach anything to this man's estate, or she could try to sue this man's estate after all of these years, and him being dead on top of that. Rick James don't need to be alive to defend himself against this right here. This sounds like a bunch of bullshit. You got a man that you claim you don't know, that was making you feel very, very uncomfortable because he was being very suggestive and inappropriate with you. He done picked you out of all of these other females to be inappropriate with. He was making you feel very uncomfortable, but as uncomfortable as you was feeling, you left the safety of the common room where everybody else was, and you went off on your own by yourself to your bedroom to change into a nightgown and lay across your bed. And then this man that you don't know, you understand what I'm saying? This man that obviously didn't do a lot of visiting to the group home, because if he did, you would have at least known who he was. This man that you don't know just happens to find his way to your bedroom, to just come on in your bedroom and violently rape you. Come on. But this is the kind of bullshit that they hand us. This is the kind of bullshit that white mainstream media hands us, and we're just supposed to accept it. We're just supposed to eat it and accept it and say, okay, well, because it was a black man, and because how, and especially Rick James, how Rick James was and all that, we're just supposed to buy this bullshit. No. Because this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. None whatsoever. If this is her statement, and if this is what she alleges happened, then yeah, I question it, because it sounds like a lie. It sounds like either a lie, or it sounds like she was down for the cause. That's the reason why she left everybody else, went to her room alone, changed her clothes, and laid across her bed. And he knew where her room was because she let him know where her room was. That's what it sounds like. That's actually what it sounds like. That's actually what it sounds like. That's just like the movie The Banker. I think it was The Banker that was supposed to come out with Samuel L. Jackson and the other dude. I can't think of his name. And the black man that was that his father. Well, I think it was the black man that's directing it, or his father was supposed to be the character that the movie was based on, or whatever. Before the movie could even come out, here comes his sisters or his half sisters or whatever coming out with this fabrication about, he had molested them, and one of them talking about he had molested her and all of this kind of stuff, and trying to raise this big old stink and all of this. Nobody had ever heard any of this before. It's not like any of this had been reported or anything like that. She waited until this movie got ready to come out. You understand what I'm saying? And decided then she was going to come out with all of these allegations about this man had raped her or had molested her or whatever. And that's the reason why The Banker never took off the ground. That's the reason why they dropped The Banker, and then we never got to see it because it looked like it was going to be a good movie. And it was the son of the man that the movie was based on, his life. It was his son and I believe either his daughters or his stepdaughter. I think it was a stepdaughter, half sisters or something like that came out talking about he had molested her. I think it was like 20 some years ago or something like that. But he was like, there was no proof. She hadn't done anything like that. He had never done anything like that. She didn't back it up with any kind of proof or anything. She just made these allegations. And because it got so much attention, that was the reason why the network just dropped the movie. And we never got to see The Banker. I mean, and the fact that black women are being so programmed to help and to participate in this agenda to destroy black men. That's what's so sad. The psychology of it is so sad that black women are actually being, I don't know whether you say tricked or whatever, into being a part of this whole agenda. I don't know what they think white supremacy thinks about them. I don't know what they think white supremacy is going to give them. I don't know what it is that they feel, but it's really a shame that so many black women are a part of this whole plot. You got Gail, you got Oprah, you got all these other mammies, you got Amanda Seals, you know what I'm saying? You got all of these other women running around here talking about they feminists and all of this kind of stuff, and talking about, black male toxic masculinity and all of this foolishness. And they don't realize, okay, don't you realize that when you help your enemy destroy your man, you helping your enemy destroy you? You helping your enemy destroy your communities. And I get that most of them, are immigrants. And then, the ones who aren't immigrant born or don't have immigrant backgrounds, the ones that are homegrown coons and homegrown mammies or whatever, and bed wenches, I understand, that they don't really associate themselves as being a part of the black community or whatever. And that's the part that's so sad. Is because these white folks have messed y'all up so psychologically that somehow or another you feel like you honorary white folk, and you want to disassociate with being black, and these folks look at you as black. When they see you, they see that you're black. So when they get ready to do what they're going to do as far as the black community is concerned, that includes you, whether you realize it or not. That's the reason why Stacey Dash got her black wake-up call. Her nigga wake up call. And so many others are getting that nigga wake up call. It's because y'all think that just because you playing a ball on that side of the field, you understand what I'm saying? And just because you have joined forces with them, you think somehow or another that when the hammer come down, you're gonna be protected. No, no, you're gonna get beat in with the hammer just like all the rest of the black folks, just like all the rest of us. So I mean, it's just sad to see this. It's sad to see black women, me as a black woman, it's sad to see black women allowing themselves to be used like this. Black women allowing themselves to be used to attack their own. And not realizing that when you attack black men like this, you're attacking your sons, you're attacking your uncles, you're attacking your nephews, you're attacking your fathers, you're attacking the black community as a whole. You know, and them little crumbs off master's table, you know what I'm saying? And that little protection that master has promised you, it's not going to last. It's not going to last. Like I said, when the hammer falls, it's going to fall on all of us. But these folks is, the LGBTQ folks and these black women, all a part of this feminist program agenda and all of that. All of them want to try to separate themselves from being black. They want to be anything other than black. But the white supremacists and this white supremacist system sees us all the same. We're all niggas. And what's good for one nigga is good for the next. So I just wanted to bring y'all this, this story real quick about Rick James. Let y'all know, that it's continuing. Now they have dragged up the bones of Rick James. What I mean, and they never stop. They never get enough. They saw how the whole thing went down with Michael Jackson. They saw the uproar and the backlash with Kobe Bryant, but they refused to stop. They refuse to stop. All of this is meant to distract us from what's really going on with Harvey, because the closing arguments are over. In Harvey's case, they rested and all the defenses rest. The defense has done their closing arguments. Prosecution did their closing arguments yesterday. And it's supposed to go to the jury. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's supposed to go to the jury Wednesday of next week. And now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we got a man that's been dead for 16 years being accused of raping somebody 41 years ago. 41 years ago. And this man is not here to defend himself. This man is not here to say yay, nay. This man is not here to say boo-hoo, yay-hoo. No, this man ain't here to say nothing. In this case, he's been dead longer than Michael was when they dredged up all of that stuff about him. So since it didn't work with Kobe, you understand what I'm saying? Snoop wasn't dead. You understand what I'm saying? Snoop wasn't dead, and Snoop didn't quite fit the profile, because of course Snoop is a part of the whole program anyway, and he went on head on and conceded and bowed down and bowed out and apologized. So now it's Rick James, because I guess they wanted to see if anybody is going to have any outrage about them now deciding that they're going to try to slander a dead Rick James. Rick James, people. Rick James. They done went and dug up Rick James. They done dug him up to slander him and and all of this. Because they got to keep the focus on black men. They've got to keep the focus on black men. You understand what I'm saying? You can't be paying attention and looking at what white men are doing that have been accused of rape and have been accused of sexual assault and all of that. There's got to be some black man out there too for us to deflect, and for us to deflect on, and for us to distract, and for us to pull the attention away from what's going on over here with these white men and get the attention over here with somebody black. You know, if you're gonna bring up white men, you gotta bring up some black man. You gotta pay somebody to be willing to come up and say, oh, he raped me. Oh, he sexually assaulted me. Oh, he did this to me. Oh, he did that to me. You gotta find somebody. But again, we've got to ask questions. And my first question with this woman here, as far as Rick James is concerned, is why at the age of 15 were you in a group home in the first place? That's the first thing we need to know. We need to know what was going on with your life, what was going on with your home life, what was going on with your parents, where were your parents, or whatever the case may be, that at the age of 15 years old, you found yourself in a group home. That's the first question. Then after we answer that question, we'll get to some of this other stuff that's obviously very questionable. And on a side note before I go, yes, we know that Snoop, came out and apologized to Gayle, right? And in his apology, Snoop threw a message in his apology. So yeah, he still bowed the knee and all of that, but he bowed the knee, but there was still a message, and there was still also somewhat of him not necessarily backing off of everything that he had said. In the message, he made a point of saying 2 wrongs don't make a right. So what he was saying with that is, even though I'm here now admitting that maybe I was wrong by the language that I used, calling her out of her name and disrespecting her, 2 wrongs don't make a right. So my wrong along with her wrong. So it's not like Snoop ever backed off of feeling like she was wrong and feeling like what she did was wrong. He also made the statement that when you have done wrong and you know it, you need to fix it. And there was something else that was aimed at Gayle. You did wrong, you know you did wrong, and you need to fix it, right? Well, what mainstream media won't tell you, and what you won't see headlines saying that Gayle apologized too. You won't see headlines saying that. Now, you see all of these headlines everywhere. Snoop Dogg apologizes. Snoop apologizes to Gayle. Snoop apologizes for attacking Gayle King. Snoop apologizes. You see that everywhere. And then you may see headlines that say Gayle responds to Snoop's apology, or here's Gayle King's response to Snoop's apology. But you won't see the headlines that say Gayle King apologizes. You won't see those. You won't see those headlines anywhere, because that's not the narrative that they want to push. That's not the narrative that mainstream media wants to push. Mainstream media wants to push the narrative that Gayle was right, that Gayle was the victim, and that Snoop was forced to apologize to her. That's the narrative that they want to push. They don't want to push the narrative that Gayle admitted any wrongdoing. But in the Washington Post, if you read the article in the Washington Post about her response to Snoop's apology, you'll read that Gayle also apologized. Now, whether it was a heartfelt apology or what, I don't know and don't care, because Snoop's wasn't heartfelt. Snoop wasn't apologizing because that's what he wanted to do. And Snoop was not apologizing because that's what his mama told him to do. That was his excuse. Snoop was apologizing because the powers that be made him apologize. They threatened him. That's the reason why Snoop apologized. So no, it was not heartfelt. So whether or not Gayle's apology was heartfelt or not doesn't matter. And it was not the apology that we need, and it was not the apology that we seek from her, but it was an apology. But most people don't know that she apologized. Why? Because mainstream media won't tell you that. Mainstream media won't tell you that Gayle King actually said, "I'm deeply sorry." Like I said, if you look it up in the Washington Post, in the article in the Washington Post about it, you'll see what she said. And I have the article here from the New York Times talking about it. So let me just read a little bit of this to you. Snoop Dogg apologizes after criticizing Gayle King over Kobe Bryant's question, right? Okay, and that's what that's all you'll see. That's all the headlines you'll snoop. Snoop apologizes. The dog Snoop Dogg apologizes. Snoop, but you'll never see if you see anything about Gayle, it'll be Gayle King's response to his apology, right? But you'll never see a headline that says that Gayle King apologizes. Because, like I said, that's not the narrative that they want you to take away. But she did. Hold on, and I'll read it to you. So if you start reading, you'll read all about his apology, da 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 da, and all of this. And you'll hear about, what he said and all of this. Ms. King said in a statement on Thursday night that she could see both sides of the sensitive issue about Mr. Bryant's legacy. I accept the apology and understand the raw emotions caused by this tragic loss, she said. I am deeply sorry that questions I asked added to that pain. That was never my intention. Now, she said some other stuff, but the other stuff she said don't even matter. I want to stick right there. I accept the apology and understand the raw emotions caused by this tragic loss, she said. I'm deeply sorry that questions I asked added to that pain. That was never my intention. Now, is that the apology that we want? No. Is that her specifically saying that she was wrong, saying that she should not have done what she did, saying that she should not have asked those questions, apologizing to the Bryant family, to his wife, to his children, to his other family members, to the family members of the other people that lost their lives in that helicopter crash? Is this the apology that she needs to give? No, nowhere near the apology that she needs to give. But she still apologizes. And she apologizes for her actions. I'm deeply sorry that questions I asked added to that pain. She didn't say questions I asked could have added to that pain, may have added to that pain, but questions I asked added to that pain. So she knows she was wrong. You understand what I'm saying? She knows where the problem was. She knows that the problem was in her questions. But what I want you to pay attention to is the fact that, yes, she did offer an apology. And mainstream media is doing everything that they can to keep you from knowing that Gayle, too, had to humble herself and take some responsibility for what happened. See, they want to push it out there, and all they want to show you is Snoop apologizing. All they want to show you is the black man bowing down, the black man broken, the black man being forced to back off of what he said. You understand what I'm saying? The black man being forced to bow down and bend the knee. That's what they want to show you. So that you keep thinking, that they're so powerful that they can even make a Snoop Dogg apologize or whatever. They especially the liberals and the white feminists, and these folks is all in cahoots with white supremacy and all of that. That's the narrative that they want to push. That's what they want you to see. They want you to see only that the black man was the one that had to issue apology. The black man was the one that had to back down from what he said. But they don't want you to see that Gayle, too, had to humble herself and offer an apology. She had to humble herself and take some responsibility. She had to humble herself and say, I could have handled this differently. Just like Snoop said, I could have handled it different. Well, Gayle had to admit that too. I could have handled this differently. As a journalist, it is sometimes challenging to balance doing my job with the emotions and feelings during difficult times, she said. I don't always get it perfect, but I'm constantly striving to do it with compassion and integrity. That's basically her saying, I could have handled this differently. I should have handled it differently. But that's what I want y'all to know. I want y'all to know that Gayle did say, I'm sorry. Specifically. And she specifically said she was sorry for the questions that she asked. And she understood that the questions that she asked were adding to the pain that people were feeling at that time. And I want you to see how tricky and how slick white mainstream media tries to be in trying to cover this part up. None of the headlines say Gayle King apologizes. Gayle King says I'm deeply responsible. Gayle King takes responsibility for what she did. Because they just want to keep it pushed out there how weak Snoop was. And that Snoop was forced to back down. And that Snoop was forced to bow the knee. That Snoop was forced to humble himself and say I'm sorry. But it don't let you know that Gayle King did the exact same thing. Now, does that let her off the hook? No, it doesn't let her off the hook. We still ain't fooling with her. She's still counsel. We're still not fooling with her and Oprah. Because if she gets the opportunity, she's going to do this again to the next black man. But the reason why they don't want us to know is because they don't want the masses to know that the power of black folks codifying and coming out against this type of mess. Coming out against the Gayles and the Oprahs and all the other buck broken, buck dancing and boot licks and mammies and bed wenches and all of that come out with these attacks against black men. They don't want us to know that we are the ones that forced Gayle to have to say something. We are the ones that forced this. Because everybody was still, even after Snoop apologized, everybody was still saying, okay, well, where's Gayle's apology? When is Gayle going to apologize? Now, this may be, as much of an apology as we're going to get on at this setting. But she didn't have any intention of doing this. She had every intention of trying to remain the victim. But there's no victimization in this. And that's the reason why white mainstream media is not pushing this out there. That's the reason why you won't see any headlines about what she said. It's because they want to keep her in the minds of the masses as a victim. They want to keep pushing her out there as a victim. She talking like me. She got a finger pointed and everything. Because I talk with my hands. She got a finger pointed and everything. But they want to keep trying to push that narrative. That she was the victim, and she just had to have this apology from Snoop. And Snoop just, had just attacked her and had just done her so wrong and all of that. Till he just had to come out and just publicly apologize to her and all of that. That's the narrative that they want to keep pushing. You'll never see this headline. That Gayle King apologizes. That Gayle King says, I'm deeply sorry for the questions I asked. Adding to that pain. So I just wanted to bring that up. And this article will be listed in the description box so that you can go read this one. Shh, be quiet. It will be listed in the description box. And then if you put in Snoop Dogg apologizes to Gayle King, you might be able to pull up the one in the Washington Post as well. Because I think these are the only two that actually give her whole full statement. Because the other ones that I have read left out the part where she says, I'm deeply sorry that the questions I asked added to that pain. See, the other articles I read, when they talk about her response to his apology, they leave out that part. They leave out that part of her statement. So there are only a couple of articles that actually put in that part of her statement, her whole entire statement. And then if you go on the Breakfast Club talks about it, and they read her whole statement. And that's how I found out that she had actually said, I'm deeply sorry. Is because everything else that I had read, every other article that I had read, they gave parts of her statement, but they left that part out where she says, "I'm deeply sorry." And so then I started searching, "I'm deeply sorry," and that's when I pulled up the one in the New York Times and the one in the Washington Post. So see, this just goes to show how white mainstream media manipulates and how they pick and choose what they want to put out there, because they're only going to put out there what's going to fit their narrative, what's going to push their narrative, what's going to undergird and support their narrative. And again, like I said, this is not letting Gayle off the hook at all. This just shows that this just shows the power of the masses and the power of the Black voice when it's codified. And they thought it was going to be enough to just get an apology from Snoop. But no. We heard the apology from Snoop, said what we had to say about it, but we kept demanding an apology from Gayle. We kept demanding that she accept responsibility for what she had did, that she accept responsibility for the fact that she started this mess. And in so many words, that's what she's doing with this statement. But there are probably a lot of people that don't even know that she made this complete statement, because most of white mainstream media is not putting out this complete statement. They're not putting out this part where she says, "I'm deeply sorry," that questions I asked added to that pain. See, they just want to show the Black man humbled. They just want to show the Black man broken. They just want to show the Black man having to apologize and having to back off, and having to back down. They don't want you to see that Gayle too had to humble herself. And she had to backtrack. And she had to back off. So for anybody who wants to read that for themselves, like I said, you should be able to find it in the Washington Post. And I'll leave the link to this article right here in the New York Times where she says it. But that's all I wanted to bring y'all today. I wanted to bring y'all that breaking news about Rick James. Again, Rick James is now being accused of committing rape on a 15-year-old girl 41 years ago, back in 1979. Rick James, a man who has been dead now for 16 years. Okay? And I also wanted to let y'all know that, yes, Gayle was humbled and she was forced to issue an apology as well. Now, it's not the apology that we wanted. You understand what I'm saying? It's not the apology that we expect. But it just goes to show that because of the backlash and because Snoop coming out apologizing didn't ease up the backlash. We were still going after her and still going after her hard and demanding an apology from her. So I just want you to know that she was forced as well to humble herself and to have to come down off of her high horse and issue some "I'm sorry" words as well. So y'all look in the description box and you'll find these two articles about Rick James and about Gayle in the description box. In the article about Gayle, you'll have to read down a little bit, because the first whole part of the article is simply about Snoop apologizing. But that's the reason why they tried to bury this way down here, so you wouldn't maybe wouldn't pay attention to it, or maybe wouldn't grasp the gravity of the fact that she actually had to come out of her mouth and say, "I'm deeply sorry" for questions that I asked, and that those questions added to that pain. Okay? But yeah, check the description box, read these articles. Please like this video. Please share this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that bell notification so you can be notified when we upload videos. The link to the PayPal is the channel PayPal is of course in the description box if you want to support the channel that way. But yeah, read this stuff and understand they're continuing to push the agenda. They're continuing with these black men and these dead black men and wanting to to dig them up and prosecute them all over again. It's just ridiculous. And for shit that happened, 20, 30, 40 years ago. I mean, come on. Come on. But again, it goes back to what the new black media has been letting us know and has been telling us. You know what I'm saying? Anytime there's a white man out there, you can best well believe they're going to find a black man to put out there too, if they have to dig him up. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're digging them up now. I guess it ain't enough of living black men giving them nothing to talk about. You understand what I'm saying? Because most of them have realized, okay, with this Me Too era, I need to go somewhere and sit down because this ain't the time. You understand what I'm saying? So maybe enough of living black men ain't giving them what they need. So now they just gonna start digging up black men, just digging up dead black men, so that they can deflect from and distract from what's going on over here with these white predators, these white deviants, these white sexual predators. So y'all pay attention. Let's stay codified. Let's keep pushing back. And y'all have a good day.